Ben Bernanke. He's the guy who chaired the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank from 2006 to 2014. Now, it's pretty well understood those were not good years for the U.S. economy. Who can forget 2008?
Down 1.7% here, a loss of 37 points or so. Apple shares are just getting hammered this morning.
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate.
Well, the man who sat at the top of the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank during all of this just got the Nobel Prize for economics. Seriously. He was first appointed to the Fed's Board of Governors in 2002. He made a splash for himself by talking about the dangers of deflation and methods that could be used to oppose deflation, giving birth to what's been called the Bernanke doctrine. George W. Bush liked him so much, he promoted him to the role of Fed chairman. In the lead-up to the 2008 financial crash, he said that everything was just fine. He maintained the United States had the perfect Goldilocks economy with sustained growth, low inflation, and monetary policies that served the market well. He even told us that a potential mortgage bubble was nothing to worry about.
I do think that this is mostly a localized problem and not something that's going to affect the national economy.
Remember how well that worked out? Now, he set out from there on a policy of trying to stabilize the economy by electronically crediting money to those who buy bonds. Sounds a lot like printing money, but he insisted that it wasn't.
Sometimes you hear that the Fed is printing money in order to pay for the securities we acquire. And I've talked about that in giving some conceptual examples. But as a literal fact, the Fed is not printing money.
Now, he's technically true. There was no printer involved. There was no new paper money created. But he was essentially doing the exact same thing, just with the click of a mouse. Critics said this would cause inflation, but Bernanke insisted everything was fine.
We're not printing money. The amount of currency in circulation is not changing. The money supply is not changing in any significant way.
Now, a lot of people saw through this. It became almost a punchline, until ultimately he had to admit that they were, in fact, doing that.
I mean, you create the reserves.
Yes.
And so, I mean, is that printing money?
Not literally.
Nothing like honesty and transparency from those who run our economy, right? So why exactly is this man a hero? Because the USA survived the financial crash that he helped to create, he must be a competent fellow. Interesting twist of logic there, but it worked for Time magazine. They named him as Person of the Year in 2009. And how did he get the U.S. economy going again, you may ask?
If we don't get the financial system working, and that involves very likely both taking bad assets and injecting capital, that other steps to restore the economy will probably not be effective.
But just don't call it printing money. We've been over that. So where are we now exactly? Record inflation in the United States. The Consumer Price Index is up 8% over August. Now, at this point, they've just continued printing money. And the rising energy and food costs due to sanctions on Russia have only made things worse. American families are getting squeezed. Polls show the public is furious over continued economic mismanagement. So it sounds like the right time to give the guy who started it all the Nobel Prize. Just another sign of how out of touch the American elite really are. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.